One of the questions we get asked the very most is, do you have a therapist you can recommend for me? And while we wish that we knew of therapists in every single place, in every single part of the country, we don't. So, what do we tell them instead, Mel?
We say check out BetterHelp because it's online, it's at a reasonable price, and you can be matched with a therapist within 24 hours. I've also used them and they have been great. And if you don't like your therapist, guess what? Click, click, and get a new one.
Absolutely. It's so hard when you have an in-person therapist if you're not clicking with them to cut them off and get a new one. So that's not an issue with BetterHelp. So we always tell people to try BetterHelp. And if you use our promo code, which is
trybetterhelp.com/WWDN,
you get 10% off your first month.
Go ahead and try it out. That's trybetterhelp.com/WWDN. And you know what? I'm a big fan of doing therapy where you don't have to wear pants, but nobody knows about it.
Are you wearing pants right now, Mel?
I'll see you later. Bye. That's trybetterhelp.com/WWDN.
Mel, this is the best day for some of us and the worst day for some of us because the topic of our conversation is something that people sometimes really want to talk about and sometimes they really don't want to talk about it.
Do you remember one time when we were talking about this topic and I couldn't even participate in the interview because I was crying? So I just muted myself and let you talk.
Now everybody is like, what are they going to talk about? What are we going to talk about? First of all, who's our guest? Will you introduce yourself and tell us your name?
Absolutely. My name is Lauren Salaun, and I'm a women's coach. I do a lot of work on nervous system regulation, subconscious reprogramming, and a lot on dating.
Dating. Yes, that's the buzzword is
Mhm.
the one that will get people either really excited to hear what you have to say or they might just turn it off. And either way, it's okay because if you're not there yet, it's totally fine.
Okay, but I'm also like curious to learn more about nervous system stuff because we talk a lot about that on the podcast and within the widow community because our nervous systems are shot after going
Mhm.
through such hell. And we've talked about the body keeps the score before, the Holmes-Rahe stress index. So even if you are a listener and you think that the dating part might not resonate you, the other part may. So keep an open mind if you want. Unless you're crying, then you can just shut it off and go in your bed. I've done that before while recording.
Lauren, tell us a little
Yes.
bit about you.
Absolutely. So I got into this work. I'll just kind of get to how we got here. I got into this work largely through my own lived experience. So I have my entire life been a very go-getter, high-achieving kind of girl and then woman, and really like loved being successful in my work. I did a lot of sports, like did all the things. I was a like I said, high achiever, but also an overachiever. So a lot of just go, 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 do all the time, which if women can relate to that, right? Like on the one hand, it brings you a lot of really like neat results in your life, right? Like good job, cool accomplishments, recognition, like being good at so many things, like all that kind of stuff. But mine was very much coming from, and I know this is true for many women in this position, mine was very much coming from a like lack of self-worth and really getting so much of my validation through what I was doing, how much of a, how perfect I seemed, like all those kinds of things. Like how good does it look on the outside, right? And while I was also very confident, which is an interesting kind of juxtaposition with that, I was outwardly very confident. I really was getting that worthiness validation through external means. That sort of operating that way very easily leads you to burnout, to, like I said, attaching your worth and your value to so many things outside of yourself, which then feels like nothing is ever enough. I started doing a lot of work on myself to heal that perfectionism stuff, heal the overachieving, to work on my self-worth, all of that while I was also in my then marriage. I am divorced. And as I started doing that work, I realized, well, part of the realization was that my masculine and feminine energy was also really like out of whack. I had lived most of my life in my masculine energy. And so, therefore, I attracted a man who was very in his feminine energy, because we had that kind of complementary polarization. And once I started doing that healing work on my own, that started to kind of naturally balance out for myself and continued into doing a ton of that deep healing work on my own, continuing that nervous system recalibration, the subconscious reprogramming, working on my attachment style type stuff, like all of that. And continuing that feminine embodiment work. So I started having a lot of women coming to me from whether what I was posting on social or through my other business that I had around how to be more confident, be more self-expressed, feel more comfortable in your own skin, all of that. And grew a really beautiful women's coaching business. And then over the last few years, that evolved to focus a lot more on dating because the last several years I've worked with a lot of those like high achieving go-getter women who have that kind of like imbalance in their masculine feminine energy, and so helping them with the internal stuff just so that they can have more like ease and flow in their lives and not feel like they're always in this state of go 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 go. And just kind of naturally that's led into dating and relationships because a lot of those kinds of women, and I was one of these women as well. While they're very good at so many things in their lives, a lot of them would say and do say like, okay, but I can't seem to attract a man who is like enough of a leader for me or masculine enough for me, or just like can't find like a man that can keep up, like that kind of stuff. And so it's very organically gone in the direction of dating, which is a lot of fun.
Okay, so Lauren, we learned just now that you are a divorcee and not widowed. Do you have people that you work with? Like, what's your experience with the widowed population?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yes, I'm divorced, and I have worked with some women who are widowed and know a few as well. And unfortunately, my sister is actually a widow. My brother-in-law, who was very much like I get a little emotional, who's very much a brother to me. So, my sister is 14 years older than me, and they were high school sweethearts. So, he was like, my brother since I was three, pretty much. So he passed away from cancer in 2021. So it's been, a handful of years, and they have two boys who are out of college. So I've gotten to see that journey just through my sister's experience on a closer level.
Also, that's so sad. High school sweethearts, and it was really pretty recent that he
Yeah.
died. Is your sister in a place where she even wants to think about anything new?
Not really. On the one hand, right? Like, and they had such a great relationship too, right? But and not that like that's ever necessarily a good outcome, right? But when it was like your person and you like have loved them since you were super young and have a family like it, and it was like such a good relationship like that makes it sting even more, and so she's of the perspective like, oh, that like he was my person, like that was my like great love story, right, of my life. And so I think she'd be open to it at some point, right? Because I don't know, she's in her 50s, and I think that's still pretty young in the grand scheme of the whole life that we get to live. But I think for the last couple years, it's been healing, and I think she's actually done like a great job of getting herself back together and like getting like keeping her life going and plugging into things and being plugged into family and friends and everything and my nephews. So I know it hasn't necessarily been like at the forefront.
What you said about, it's just there's no predictive ability. You can have a great marriage and you can be ready to date really quickly. You can have a
Hmm.
horrible marriage and be ready to date really quickly. You can have a long-term illness and be ready to not date quickly. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't really follow a lot of patterns, and it's just kind of it's up to each of us. And it's probably better if you don't ask your sister like, "Hey, are you ready to date yet?" because it's so personal
Yeah.
and it can
Yeah.
feel really, I don't know, confrontational to feel like we're always doing it wrong. Like if we wait too long, then we've waited too long. If we do it too fast, then we're doing it too fast. And it's just like there
Mm.
is no right and wrong. And it's really frustrating to even be in this position to be thinking about dating again for most of us. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I really resound with what you said about being an overachiever, doing all the things, the sports, the career, just you just keep going. And I mean, when you're in late high school and early 20s and into your 30s, it's like that's how you get ahead, right? It's like I look back at my experience. I'm a musician and I said yes to every single gig. Part of that was because I had a marriage when I was 20 years old that ended 3 years later. And so I really had to get out and support myself and deal with some of the stress and grief from that. But I think I was young enough that my nervous system hadn't totally shut down by then. And I had the energy I took every single gig. And because I took every single gig, then I got to be in the pool for consideration for better gigs, and it advanced my career. Then I got to be 35. I was in a car accident. I said to my husband, because by then I had married Scott, who has now died. And I said, I don't think my body can keep up with this. And I didn't realize, I didn't have language or knowledge at the time that it was nervous system and my body, kind of just saying like, no, enough. And he went up to have a surgery. And right before he had the surgery, he said that I was like, can you help me figure out how to do less? I'm so used to saying yes. And I don't know how to stop and say no. Like I still have to make money, this and that. Well, he ends up dying after the surgery. And then I had the added stress and grief and just excavation of the soul that comes with death of a partner. And then I really my body's like, we're done. We can't do anything. And so then it went to the extreme of like, I can't work. And my work involved traveling, lots of gigs where it's like I'd be in one city and then fly to the next city the very next day, which would be 2 time zones away. So I really resound with what you're saying as far as that goes. And I think a lot of people, whether or not they've experienced a loss or, or just been a human in the world, I think that they can really respond to what you're saying about nervous system and just the toll that it takes on your body. So I'm interested, can you tell us a little bit about your journey with that and what you help others with regard to that?
Yes, a lot of what you're saying, and like when we add a major trauma into it, like that's going to throw things off even more. So, like a death or like some sort of like major kind of emergent situation that is going to challenge our nervous system even more. And so, for many of us who have been in that kind of go, 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 say yes to so many things kind of space, like that's what we're used to, and that's what we've conditioned our bodies to do, right? And that's our normal, even if it doesn't necessarily feel good, right? Even if it's not really good for us in the long run. And so much of the time, like your body is going to want to do what it's used to doing. So change, even if it's change for the better, is going to feel wrong a lot of the time. And then we often also get to that point where it like gets to the too much space, and then the body's just like, no, we're done. Actually, we can't do anything. And I had hit that point actually, from being like a workaholic, overachiever, like all the things, to then like feeling like I completely lost that gear of being able to be productive for like almost a year of being like, I can't work more than a couple hours. Like, what is going on? This isn't very sustainable. This isn't very sustainable.
I need to eat.
Yeah, the pressure of like not being able to pay for my bills or my rent or my mortgage, like that's not working. What's happening, you know?
People are like, just take some time off and relax. It's like, but then I will be homeless and I can't. I
Yeah.
know mine's lasted like my energy got zapped. I mean, it was actually from my divorce in my 20s. It did zap me, but I kept pushing through. But I mean, I have chronic fatigue from it and stuff still. And then after Scott died, it was like, my gosh, I'm 8 years out now and I still am exhausted. And I've been trying to do the thing. So it takes forever for some of us. So you said that it took you about a year to kind of manage it. Hey guys, just checking in and want to say if you are enjoying this podcast
And you want to see it keep going, maybe it's helped you through your widowhood journey and you think that it might help others on their widowhood journey, you can support that cause by joining our Patreon.
some of the things that you get as a Patreon beneficiary are ad-free episodes, so you don't have to hear ads like this.
You also get exclusive content, and at a certain level, you might also get an exclusive t-shirt. You can only get that place.
That is true. It's pretty cool. There are 4 different tiers available, so check it out. It's patreon.com/WWDN.
And as an extra bonus, very often you get your names read by one of my kids, and they will do a terrible job with the pronunciation. And that's like a bonus, I
I
think.
think it's kind of the best. I would much rather hear somebody butcher my name than say it correctly.
A child butcher it than an adult do it correctly. Yep. So go to patreon.com/WWDN to keep our podcast going and support the widowed cause.
Yes! Thanks, guys! Back to our regularly scheduled program.
Yeah, I mean, mine was kind of a few different things because the other thing, the thing that is really frustrating about this stuff, I think especially for us women who are smart, who are used to being very like independent, self-sufficient, all of that, and can like do a lot and figure out a lot for ourselves, we conceptually can understand what's going on, right? And like intellectually can see it, spell it out, all of that, but then often changing the behaviors or the habits, that's the thing that's challenging, even though you can literally see yourself doing the thing that's like, well, I know if I just don't check my email today, it's not good for like the
Checks
work,
email.
right? Like
Yeah.
it's not good for work or for paying things. If I just don't open my mail, that's not good. And yet you don't, right? Like those sorts of things, right? Like, but you just still can't get yourself to do the action where it's not a matter of like not understanding the consequences or that kind of stuff. It's a like nervous system kind of hiccup that's going on or issue that's going on. And so for me, there were a lot of layers to it, as there often are, right? Like I'm I was healing the kind of first was like the overachieving and the perfectionism, right? And the self-worth stuff. And then I had the layer of the masculine feminine energy. Let's recalibrate that. And then I had the layer of like having high functioning neurodivergence my entire life and being like, oh, that makes so much more sense now, those sorts of things. And so I would say when I got to my point of like not being able to kind of do things, it was probably like a year of like just being like, this is not sustainable. And yet I don't care that much. And that was a really scary feeling because I'm like, that's not going to work. And then I'm like, whatever, maybe I'll manifest something to change and it'll just happen. Right. And, and so for that, I think several things like continuing to do the work and to figure out new solutions. Though for me, it was really the big shifts happened when I started doing somatic work. So I got into doing this kind of work, the nervous system and the subconscious reprogramming stuff, which is somatic work. So it's working with the body and the those things that I literally just said. So when I started doing that, I got into it because I wanted to like fix that crap for myself. I was like, okay, like talk therapy isn't doesn't like I haven't done much like talk therapy, but it's not that doesn't work for someone like me. And for a lot of people who are either neurodivergent or are very like intellectually self-aware and can like verbalize their emotions and stuff like that and like conceptualize and intellectualize them. And so I'm like, okay, that isn't going to work. Like I know all the things. I don't need to take a new course or new program or to be taught a new thing. Like I need the like whatever's happening on the inside kind of stuff. And so I started learning about somatic therapy for doing my own healing work and was like, you know what? We're going to get certified in this so that I know it really, really well.
How did you come across this? Because it sounds like you are intuitive as well and that you knew you needed something, but I feel like I didn't really hear a lot about somatic healing until the last several years.
Actually, a girlfriend of mine that I knew through other like business masterminds and networking groups and stuff like that, she runs a certification program doing it. And once I kind of and so it was like I knew her, of course. But as I was starting to get into these things and realizing, no, I don't need another course. I don't need another like thing to learn or training program or something like that. Like I need like this kind of inner stuff and started realizing, okay, the like actual, like, whether it's breath work or certain meditation sort of things or like tapping and stuff like that, I just kind of organically started to get curious about those things. And then, as we do on social media, I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna like look up all this stuff. And so I just really kind of like landed on it organically and being like, oh, somatic healing. I think that's what I need to look into more closely. And so I started asking around actually, like, oh, I'm looking, for somebody who's a practitioner of somatic healing, like near me. And another girlfriend and past client, she was like, oh, you should check out so and so. And I was like, wait, that's what she does. Oh, amazing. And as you can assume from the like overachiever stuff, I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna just like get sessions. Like, let's learn how to do this because my brain also wants to understand why this works and so that I can like do this for myself for these sorts of things and not just for myself but then help other people with it because I knew way too many people who have those kinds of patterns and things that they wanted to break.
I love this idea because it's almost connecting a bunch of things for us too, because this is right down our alley. So when you talked about like your marriage ending and you spoke about how all of your self-worth was coming from these outside sources, I think that a lot of widows find that a lot of their self-worth was also coming from their relationship with their partner or their spouse. And all of a sudden that's just gone. And then it's trying to find confidence in yourself that is completely self-driven because you don't have that person to rely on to tell you you're doing a good job. And then to have the self-confidence to be able to go out and put yourself out there to try and find a new somebody for yourself. It's like two giant steps that you have to, and I think sometimes they come out of order and maybe that's not a good thing. I don't know, maybe you can talk to us a little bit about that, but it just seems like those are two big, huge steps that we as widows have to take in order to even try to put ourselves out there again.
Absolutely. Well, and because it's such a, like, even if it's not necessarily a self-worth thing being tied to your partner, it's such a like identity thing and such like this is how my life is. It's interwoven with this other person and your sense of self. Yes, you're your own person even when you're in a relationship, but when you're in a marriage and in like a full life with someone else, like so like there's so much of your life and who you are, right? Unraveling that, like that's a huge thing to do, And even if it's like down to like the little things of inside jokes and stuff like that, or like little habits or routines and stuff where it's like, oh, like, yeah, you can still carry many of those things forward and with you, whether it's into a new relationship or just on your own of like, those sorts of things and like values, habits, you name it. But it is like a season where you would have to then kind of get to know yourself again better, right? And what matters to you and where then do you get that validation and that reassurance and that like feeling of like external love being poured into you. Like there's a whole huge identity shift and like renewal. That's not necessarily the right word, but yeah, like you are in a place where you have to figure out who you are now on your own.
Whether somebody is divorced or widowed, it's like even your body is used to having another body in proximity. And so I feel like even stuff that we're not cognizant of, maybe that's more subconscious. It's like it takes time for your body to be like, yeah, we are no longer attached to this person's energy as well. And so I know because for widows, a lot of us, whether it was a sudden death or something that was an illness, it's like we still are looking for the person, or we forget. We're like, are they gone? Are they at work? And I feel like that can take varying lengths for depending on the person for how long, and that takes for your body to be like, oh yeah, we are now just us. That person's body is gone. So that's another layer.
Yeah, well, and that's something too, like we co-regulate in relationships, right? For better or worse, right? You can, if you're with somebody, you're in a toxic relationship, right? Your nervous system is going to be like going crazy because it's attached to a toxic situation and possibly another dysregulated nervous system. So if you're in an unhealthy dynamic, you're going to feel that on a nervous system level, and your nervous system is going to like be synced up in that way, which is not a good thing. But we also co-regulate in good, healthy ways with our partner, and you don't want to become dependent on the other person to like, okay, if I'm sad, I have to then go to my partner to be in a better mood, or if I'm whatever, right? Like feeling low about myself, I have to go seek that, get that bucket filled up by somebody else. But one of the beautiful things about being in a healthy, like good relationship is that like when you are not, when sometimes when you're feeling not 100%, you do have that person to be like, hey, can you just hug me? And that can be so healing and feel so good. Or can I just like, I'm feeling a little needy this week. Can I just like sit next to you? Like this was me a couple weeks ago with my boyfriend. I'm like, I'm so needy, like, but I don't really even need to hang out and have like quality time. But can I just bring my laptop over and like work next to you? Because I just want to be close to you. Right. And that like helped eliminate like a layer of just kind of like feeling like unsettled that I was feeling. And so we co-regulate with the people in our lives, whether that's friends, whether that's our partner. And so when you're going from like having that kind of steady, like that other kind of grounding force in your life to then not having it, there's so many factors to then have to get used to. Oh, my body is existing in this home all by myself now. And I can't, when I get sad, just go into the other room and get a hug, or when I'm feeling whatever the way and have my person help me feel better. Like now I have to do that all by myself, or I have to call a friend to talk to me on the phone, which isn't necessarily the same, or come over, right? Whatever it is, it's a huge thing to figure that out and to end up being okay on your own again.
Okay, I have an impossible question. You're going to hate it.
Great.
One question that we get all the time, and I know that all of our listeners have asked themselves, is am I ready to date? What's your answer, Lauren? Are they ready to date? Diagnose every single one of them.
Yes, no, maybe. It depends. Um,
Perfect.
yeah, exactly. Honestly, it would be like on an individual kind of basis, right? Because I would say like if it's been something where you've kind of been preparing for it for a long time, you might be more ready, right? But you might not be more ready in that case, right? So like if it was sudden, that might be more shocking and you need more time to heal. Or maybe you he did the healing work and have peace with it really on a quicker timeline than you might think, right? So it really honestly depends. And I think it depends on kind of the like what you're looking for and what you're wanting and like how long it's been. I think time is like a bit of a factor for sure, but it really honestly I think depends on each person's individual situation.
Do your people in your groups who are divorced, do they have those same questions? Do they ask themselves? Because like a lot of times, because it's so painful, we do want to co-regulate with somebody else. A lot of times people jump into that really quickly just to try and feel better, and it's not necessarily they're not able to really filter out what's a good relationship and what's a bad relationship right now. So do you have that does that same kind of a question come up after divorce? And do you have advice for people about like how to know if you're in a place that you can find a healthy relationship?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, it comes up all the time. And I pretty much, as a rule of thumb, like I really, really encourage people to not just jump right into a new relationship, whether it's a marriage or just like a boyfriend or something, right? If it's not serious dating, like that's a different thing because it's not necessarily a relationship. But I think like if you're ending a relationship, it is very, very easy, or a relationship ends, it's very, very easy to jump into a new one because you're wanting to fill that void, right? You're not wanting to be alone. You're wanting to feel loved. You're missing like somebody being in your life. And I see that a lot. And so, like, pretty much like across the board rule of thumb, I think you should always take some time to yourself to heal. Even if you feel like so ready, like take a month, like, I don't know, that's not that long, you know? And I think it's not always, but I think when people do that kind of jump, like there's one relationship like on deck once the next one ends, sort of thing. And it's just kind of like people get rotated in and out a little bit. Even if there's no overlap, there's like a very simple and direct progression to the next one. I think that a lot of the time those are coming from a place of like seeking validation in some way, or there's some area of lack that the person is trying to get filled through the relationship and not necessarily coming to the relationship in a place that is very whole. And that's not to say that you need to have everything quote unquote fixed or healed before going into a relationship. You don't. But I think one of the questions to ask yourself if you're like, okay, am I ready to be dating again or to like get into a relationship or whatever it is getting clarity on, okay, do I want this because I'm sad, I'm lonely, I'm wanting attention, I don't feel like I've been like desired in a while, right? Like, are you
Yes.
wanting it
Yes to
for,
all
yeah,
those things.
yeah. Like, are you wanting it for those reasons, which those might be part of the reason, but if those are the dominating reasons, then I would say, no, you get to work on like feeling more whole on your own. And so, but if you're like, no, I actually like generally feel like happy and I'm not, while yes, I would like to have a person in my life, right? Like to share my life with, I'm not feeling this like overwhelming loneliness every day and then I'm just trying to like fill that need. So it's the like, okay, where is it coming from? Yes, I think it's fine to want all those things and to maybe have those like quote unquote negative motivations to pursue a relationship. Like I think that's okay. But if those are the dominating reasons why you're wanting to get back out there, then I think there's still a little opportunity for you to do a little bit more of kind of the healing work. And I think there really is something to be said to come into a relationship from a place of feeling really, really like as whole as you can on your own. And I know when we're talking about loss, that's a lot harder perhaps than just like a breakup with somebody, especially if it's, I think that's a different situation and that sort of like those voids might be a lot deeper and a lot and sting a lot more. But I think as it's ultimately going to result in the strongest and like healthiest and most sustainable relationship if you can do whatever you can to be like as whole as possible. And so that it's not you're not outsourcing those needs to the other person.
Yeah, I think it's fine to recognize that, yes, we might have those feelings. Like, yes, I do feel lonely. Yes, I would like to have somebody tell me good job. Yes, I would love to have somebody share in the load of, all of the things. But also, that's not the primary reason why I'm doing this. And also, I have something to give to somebody else to make like something more beautiful than each of us could do on our own. So it's kind of hard though, because sometimes I feel like we feel like we have to say, I'm none of those things anymore. Like I'm totally fine. I have it all together and I need to have it all together before I try and have a relationship. But acknowledging that you can still have those feelings, but what's driving you? Are you trying to get into a new relationship to fix something? And a new relationship probably isn't going to fix anything. Like it's going to be work.
And I think one of the things with that too, exactly what you said, like you don't have to have it all together or have everything crossed off the list or quote unquote perfect, right? It doesn't have to all be done. Like there can be plenty of things that are a work in progress, plenty of things that you're like, oh, this one is still really tough for me, but I'm not just trying to get a relationship to fix that or fill that void. And I think one of the things like that is even more helpful with that is if you think about, okay, what kind of relationship do I want to be in? What are the qualities and characteristics of the kind of person that I want to be with, right? And you have a very clear idea of your standards and expectations and stuff like that. If you start to notice yourself being a little too flexible with those standards because you don't want to be lonely, like, he's not exactly what I'm looking for, but like I'm really lonely, so it'll do, right? Like if that's the energy that you're approaching things in, that's when I think that should be a little, send off a little like alarm in your brain to be like, oh, maybe I deserve better, the other person deserves better, like maybe I'm not quite ready. Like if I'm sacrificing my standards and what I think I deserve and what I want, if I'm sacrificing that stuff, I'm probably doing this for the wrong reasons.
What do you say though when people have standards that are impossible for other people to fulfill? Like, how do we pick standards that are achievable and realistic and not like, I only want Captain America, who also like makes the bed and never leaves his socks anywhere?
This is such a big thing I see like so much on social media, and there's a couple sides to it because one, I want women to like be in their dream relationships and with their dream guy and be treated like queens and stuff like that, right? Like I want that for every woman to be in an amazing, beautiful relationship with where they're treated the best they've ever been treated, right? And I think that it's very easy on social media to get really like delusional, polarizing perspectives as well. And I think we see a lot of women like, here's my list of non-negotiables. And if he isn't like checking every single one out, bye, right? Or like canceling a guy for very particular things that are probably a little bit ridiculous. And so the thing with that, so it's like a fine line. Like, yes, hold the people that you allow into your life to a high standard. Absolutely. Like, don't settle in a relationship. And the other side of that is you have to be holding yourself to a high standard as well. And you have to then think too, okay, like if my dream guy is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, blah, 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 like this whole list of things, like if that's my dream guy, what's on his dream woman list? Am I that kind of woman? Right? Because if you've got your list of like this perfect man for the perfect relationship that you want, wouldn't it make sense that he might have a list as well? And then are you that kind of woman? And that doesn't mean to change yourself or bend over backwards for a guy to like make him love you. That's not what I'm saying at all. You know, a lot of women are like, okay, I want a man who's very like financially secure and pays all the bills, like all that kind of stuff. But do you think a man like that wants somebody who like your money might not matter to him, right? Which most of the time that's like what the woman wants. Your money might not matter to a guy like that, right? If you want to be a stay-at-home wife, mother, that sort of thing. And that's fine. So it's not necessarily an apples to apples thing. He's not necessarily looking for the same level of finances on his list that you're looking for on yours. But I'm willing to bet that a man like that, who is willing to do that for the woman that he loves, wants a woman who's financially responsible, right? Who's not spending outside of her budget, really thinking about, okay, like what's on my list? And then what would that man that I've created in my head of this dream guy, what's on his list? If I want a man who is like, has a super sexy body and stuff like that, he's probably gonna, I would think, value a woman who takes care of her health as well, you know, and who prioritizes that. That doesn't necessarily mean an exact body type or look or stuff like that, but I would say that a man like that does probably want someone who takes care of herself and her body and right. And so it's like it's thinking about, okay, if this is my list, I also have to put myself in the man's shoes and what's on his list. And you don't have to again have all the things checked off and done, but like am I working on those things? And now if what's on that guy's list is so different from who you are, then that's where it's like, okay, maybe I get to adjust some of my preferences, or maybe I get to grow. Because again, it's not about changing, like completely changing who you are or anything like that. But I think ultimately it's like, am I working to become the best version of myself for me, first and foremost, right? And then realizing that, okay, if I've got this strict checklist of things, like he might too. And like, there's a lot of women who I think have the attitude of like, here's my really strict checklist. And then if there's any sort of that then applied to them in return, they're like, if you don't want me exactly as I am, find less or whatever. On some level, yes, I get it. But on another, it's like we also get to be realistic with not necessarily like what we're bringing to the table, because I hate that kind of like verbiage and conversation, but with like how we're showing up in the world, because it is, I think there are a lot of people who have the like unrealistic standards or things that they think should be higher on the list than they are. Like, so we joked before we started recording whether or not we were going to talk about balding. And here we go.
Yes.
We are, ladies. Who knew? And and so like something that I think it's important is to know what are your must-haves, what are your nice to haves, and then what are like deal breakers. So like a deal breaker might be smoke cigarettes. If a man does that, it's an automatic no. I don't care how nice he is, I don't care how rich he is, I don't care all that, right? Like if that's on your deal breaker list and he's not actively trying to quit, it's a no. And so that's a big mistake a lot of women, I think, make is they'll like justify, rationalize, all that kind of stuff instead of like seeing the incompatibility right away. But then on our must-haves and nice-to-haves, things like I'm in my late 30s, right? And so a man balding has never really been a deal breaker for me. But that's like on many women's lists, like, 6'2", can't be bald, like that sort of thing. I'm like, he can't one. Yes, I'm tall, so I like a certain level of height as well because I want to feel little when I'm wearing heels and like dainty and like that kind of stuff, right? But like there are certain things like even the balding one, he can't control that, right? Like that has nothing to do with his character. And so like sure, if you want to be like that picky to be have that be on a deal breaker list, like okay, but like at the end of the day, that is such a nothing in like the grand scheme of how he's going to treat you and what kind of man he is or what kind of father he might be, like all that kind of stuff. So realizing too, like you can loosen the grip a little bit on the must-haves within reason.
And we have a lot of stuff too because our circle, there are widowed parents, so there are kids that might be living at home still, or dogs. I've had people that are not okay that I have 3 dogs. And so it's like, well, there you go. Anita, what about you? Because you have an interesting experience because you have kids.
Yeah.
And some of the kids, well, one of the kids wasn't old enough to remember his dad. The others really miss his dad.
Yeah, my kids drive a lot of my dating or lack of dating behavior because I'm so protective of them. And also
Mm.
I'm just busy. Dating to me doesn't seem like a value add. Like it just seems like another thing that I have to add to my list of things that needs to be done. And so it's just like it's too much work and I can't be bothered with any of that.
But also, you've said before you're not opposed to it. I think, so you're not saying like never, you're just saying like right now, I can't.
Yeah, I'm just like, I don't have the energy or really desire to go out and do those kind of things. And it's scary. Like it's very scary to me. And a lot of the fear is number one, my kids, and number two, I leave my socks everywhere. And so I can't be demanding anything from from a man.
But see, that's one of the things, dude. That's one of the like the pick your battles sort of thing. Like, there's some socks lying around, whatever, right? Like, and like the more I learn about the differences between men and women, like the more those like little things, like yes, there is like the weaponized incompetence and stuff like that, and like women taking on so much more load, but like the certain things like that you're like at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal, right? But
Yeah.
also, Anita, with you, it's like if it feels like like a burden to take on and not something that feels fun and exciting, then don't. And but if you're open, right, then it's like you keep doing the things that like keep you feeling good and whole, and like it may just happen like in the course of you living your life.
But we have had people that we've talked to that are a little bit more academic about it, a little bit more like, statistics say that I'm not going to find another partner unless I try. You know what I'm saying? And they want to be partnered again. And so they do take it on as more of a task or a chore. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to just like, oh, it's like, no, I want to be in a relationship and it's going to be work and I'm going to put in the work to find a person.
I agree with that to a certain extent, but the energy you're bringing to it is really important, right?
Right.
So, yes, if you're staying home all the time and you're like, or just doing the like same one thing every day and then coming back home, it's less likely you're gonna meet someone, right? And so, yes, if you want to be dating, if you want to be in a relationship, you do need to take proactive action to help make that happen. Now, what I for women recommend most is that you fill your life up with the things that make you happy and then continue to become the best version of yourself, which sounds so fluffy. Like I get it, it sounds fluffy, right? But again, if we're thinking about, okay, what's on your dream guys, dream girl list, like the more you become that better version of you, the like easier it's going to be, the more choices you're going to have, like if we're being really kind of realistic about it. And again, not doing it for the sake of another person, but like you're going to be happier with yourself and your life. right? The more you're evolving and doing the things that light you up, and the more you're filling your life with the things that make you really happy. And so what I've seen is when women start to do that and really like center themselves while being open, that's when things start to happen more, right? When a woman is in the energy of like, where is he? I have to get on all these apps. I have to go to here. I have to go there. I have to, right? Like when they're in that kind of like searching energy of like, I have to go to a cafe or I have to go here because what if I bump in, my husband is just out running errands and I'm not there to bump into him, right? Like with that kind of energy, it's not very magnetic for one. And then you're just like operating in this like stressed out frequency, which doesn't help. And so, yes, you need to be leaving your house, but like do things that make you happy, whether that's like, I'm talking to one of my girlfriends actually, who right now that, she's been doing the dating app thing. And I'm like, can we be, I'm like, can we be done with apps, please? Now, I think they can be very useful if you use them strategically. But if using the apps feels like a chore and an annoyance, you shouldn't be using them. You shouldn't be using them, right? And dating, yes, to a certain extent, is very much a numbers game. You're likely going to be going on a lot of dates, like first dates, right? Or having a lot of app matches, but that's part of the process, right? If you're wanting to find your like partner or person to be with, most of them are going to be a no, right? And so you have to go through the process of weeding the no's out to get to the yes, right? And so that's like, and not to beat yourself up over like, oh, we didn't have the vibe, we weren't compatible. Like the majority are going to be no's. That's the expectation, you know? And so with my friend I was mentioning, I'm like, are we done? Can we be done with apps, please? Already? Like, no, they don't, it doesn't seem like you're having fun with them. Like the guys you've met on them lately are not that like all that impressive for what you're looking for. I'm like, girl, and she's been really getting like into her faith more and like going to church and stuff. I'm like, start volunteering at your church. Like I know you're having so much fun like plugging in there and going to the Bible studies. Like volunteer like once or twice a month. Maybe you'll meet someone there. And that's something that you will enjoy, but it also puts you in an environment where there may be men who have similar values and interests to you, right? And so it's like, okay, join a new, instead of doing home workouts, get a gym membership, right? You're still doing something for you, working out, but you'll be like out and about in the world where you might meet somebody a little bit more. And so filling your life up with those sorts of things, I think that's how it happens most. But yeah, you can't just be like sitting at home and like hoping it like happens upon you, you know? And one of the biggest things though too is the energy that you're going out into the world with, right? Because you could be going from that kind of like, where is he like scarcity searching energy, which is going to not attract the best people or people at all, right? Because it's that like needy kind of like frenetic energy, which people will feel. But if you're also going out into the world with very closed energy, like I'm not available, people will feel that as well. And you'll either get people being attracted to you who are not a good fit, or people not being attracted into your space at all.
I feel like when you just said like let's not do the apps anymore, that was like mind-boggling to me because that wasn't the right word. Because I feel like that's where all of the focus is nowadays.
Yeah.
And it's weird because when we got married, that wasn't a thing, but now it feels like that's the only place to meet people.
Yeah.
And when you said that, it was just like maybe not, but that's how it feels right now.
Right. Yeah. And because we're so used to using social media for like so many other things throughout the day that it's like such an easy extension of that. We're already swiping a ton. I might as well. I can do this from home. It's so efficient. I can vet people through my screen before ever meeting with them. So I can like weed things out, which is true to a certain extent if you're using apps strategically,
What
right?
does that
Use
mean? Tell us what that means.
Tell me now. What does it
Yes.
mean? Okay, so if you're going to be using an app, you or dating in general, you need to know very clearly, okay, what am I looking for slash available for? Do I want to just like get back out there and date and see what it's like because I haven't been single in a really long time? Or am I looking for my forever person? Am I like, right? So knowing what you want and what you're available for is really important. Knowing then what kind of person you want to connect with. So like I said before, the same sort of things if you're out in the wild dating and not using apps is what are my must-haves, nice to haves, deal breakers, right? What are those non-negotiable things? And then I recommend, and I did this, and I will say, ladies, we talked about like the bald thing and the height thing and that kind of stuff. Like, I am very particular. And I wrote down a
Right.
very long list of very specific things that like my dream guy, those qualifications and all of that. And ended up meeting my dream man at the gym who like has all the things like the height I want. I was like, that wasn't even a must have. It was a nice to have, right? Like amazing hair. I'm like, we've got all the nice to haves too, like all of that. So, anyway, knowing really clearly, like get specific. And again, knowing which ones you're going to like cling to with like a really firm grip and which ones are like, I can be flexible with that, right? And so knowing so clearly what that man or woman is like so that you know when someone disqualifies themselves so that you can close that loop and they're no longer a fit. So you're not wasting your energy there. So that's one of the things. And that's for whether it's app dating or out in the wild. You need to know so clearly and not just go into it with like, we'll see, whatever, right? Because then you're going to just waste a lot of time on apps or in whatever you're doing. So really, really clear. And then I would only spend like a little bit of time on the apps a day. You want to be really intentional with how you set up your profile. And we can get into like more of the weeds on this, like in other conversations, but like variety of photos, like it shouldn't all just be the same kind of selfie. Show yourself like doing something like one of your hobbies or and like something that might be a little bit more dressed up and something that might be more casual, right? Like the things that are really important to you, like if it's multiple dogs, like there should be a picture of you with your dogs, right? So that's people who are like, pets, they stay away, and then don't waste your time. And so making sure your photos give good variety and are also approachable, right? Like the photos can serve to attract people in, but should also weed people out. Making sure you're using good prompts and like you're making use of the like text real estate in your profile that you can use. So, again, having some variety. If you want to share some of your values or like there, I think there should be a mix of like kind of like lighthearted, like cheeky, like fun little things, and then some that are the more like, serious, like here's what I'm looking for. And then with apps to really like save yourself some time, like there should be very minimal texting back and forth. Yes, you want to connect and you want to like make sure there's at least enough of a vibe over texting, or I think most of them you can also send voice notes in the apps as well. But like don't spend several days messaging back and forth in the apps. That is if you're wanting to be dating in real life. If you're again like recently widowed and you're kind of getting back out there, maybe like having some like texting conversation for a little bit, maybe that's the as far as it feels comfortable right now. But I'm kind of speaking more if you're wanting to like ready to be out there and starting to date, don't waste a ton of time with back and forth texting conversations over several days. I think like within a week, you should be out of the app and again, still not texting a ton. Who you don't know this person, why are you spending a ton of time texting with them, like and being pen pals with them, right?
It's like Chat GPT. It's the same thing.
Right? Exactly. But there should be a pretty quick move to like have a FaceTime call. And I recommend everyone has a FaceTime call because that helps with safety reasons. It helps you to see, are we all using updated photos? Is there a vibe, right? Like that sort of thing. And again, that conversation doesn't need to be that long, right? So don't spend a ton of time with text back and forth because, like, again, most of these people are going to be no's for you. You might luck out and, like, the first person you match with, you're like, oh my gosh, this person's amazing. I don't want to date you for a really long time. Great, right? But the majority are not going to be that, at least, like, most likely, And so don't be spending a ton of time, like, in chit chat, get to know you, kind of small talk, or even like super deep conversations over text before meeting somebody. And so we want to get to a FaceTime or a video chat sooner than later so you can see if there's even chemistry because people can also have really good like texting chemistry and then you're like in person you're like, "Oh, no. This isn't no, the energy's not quite there."
On that note, how many dates do you give somebody before you say no? And also, I'm secretly the most scared of breaking up with people who I haven't even been in a relationship with. Like, how do you nicely say no, thank you? Because I hate confrontation so much that I would probably date somebody for
Just date them
33
forever.
years. Yes, because I could not say like no, thank you.
Okay, well, so I used to be a big people pleaser, and I fixed that a long time ago, and I no longer am at all. And I'm been so comfortable like saying no or like this isn't for me for like a while, and it's very, very freeing. So with that, okay, so how many dates? First question, how many dates should you go on before you're like, not feeling it? So this again kind of depends. It kind of depends because it depends, I think, in part on what are the reasons why you're not feeling it, and like are those valid versus are they not? Because I want to like respect everyone's preferences and stuff like that. But there's sometimes like I have a client who has gone on a date with a man who is a little shorter than she would prefer. And aside from that, like basically all the compatibility markers are there, good connection, great conversation, all that kind of stuff. And so I believe they've gone on two dates now. I think so. And it's the sort of thing where the attraction and chemistry, that's really important, right? You shouldn't force yourself to like power through if there isn't attraction, chemistry, all of that. Right. And so for this person, when I'm like, okay, and one, like he's a little shorter than what his profile said, which like is
Oh,
then a
liar.
disappointment, right?
Yeah.
It's like the added a couple inches to the profile, which is like, just be honest, right? Though I get like that's gonna disqualify him from a lot of the filters in the apps anyway. But so with her, it's something, and with women in general, I think sometimes women put too much emphasis on the like immediate chemistry. Whereas like for what I believe like to be in a really good, healthy, sustainable relationship as a woman, like that is so much more about the man's character and how he treats you than like that initial chemistry, right? And like vice versa to a certain extent as well, but I see a lot of women be like, I don't feel like I want to like jump his bones and just like make out with him right away. So pass. And I'm like, well, that shouldn't be like the highest thing on your list. If we're like zooming out, like does he have like the all the other characteristics that you're looking for? Does like what's his character like? How is he treating you? All that kind of stuff. And to then not necessarily try and force attraction because it has to be there, but seeing if like, okay, can that connection grow? And it might not. What I found is that a man's presence and energy and how he commands his energy can make up for a lot in like the height department, right? And so like so much, right? And so that's the sort of thing where I'm like, for her, I'm like, okay, maybe give it another date. Like maybe go on that third date, see if that kind of attraction and chemistry builds. Okay, so how to end things. When you know that it's time to end something, you just got to do it. You just got to rip the band-aid off and do it.
I'm calling you, Lauren.
Yes, that's fine. That's fine. I can help you draft a text and stuff like that, or how to have the phone
Dearest
call. Or,
sir, I have
yeah.
enjoyed our engagements.
And I think too, like I'm so not a fan of ghosting. My friends would like think I was so savage with how I would end things with men. I'm like, what? This is so polite. I'm like, it's firm and clear, but I am being kind and I am being polite, right? And some men do not take it well, right? And I'm like, there's no issue with what I said. Like, what? Why are you freaking out? Like that, but it's just like the ego, like the rejection, just period, right? Like, but I'm not a fan of ghosting. I don't want to have those like open, like question marks from my side, like someone else thinking that maybe there's still the doors open. And then, but I also don't want to do that to someone else, right? And so if you're feeling like, ooh, it's the time, instead of like leaving like murky, confusing energy and them to just like, oh, they'll figure it out if I just never call them back. I don't know. I think that does like both you and them a disservice because still that like energy is going to kind of be lingering in the back of your mind and theirs too. It's so much easier when you can have that like mature conversation than like you showed up in integrity and in a like respectful, proactive way and then that energy tie is kind of severed, at least on your end, and it feels cleaner, I think. And so how to do that, like if and I've done this after like first date, after plenty of first dates where I'm like, you know what, I was open to the date, we had a date, it was fine, but I know that's a no, it's not worth pursuing any further. Then I don't also like, if I know that after a date, I don't then also want to have small talk the next day with you, because why would I do that? Like I'm so selfish with my energy. And so that's the other thing. Because you already said, Anita, that you're super busy. It's like that, don't give your precious energy away to people pleasing. In that situation, even just being like, hey, I had a really nice time with you last night. Thank you so much. I enjoyed our conversation. However, I do not think that we are a romantic fit moving forward. I wish you the best. That's all you need to do. You don't need to say why. You can just say, I don't think we're a fit for a relationship. Take care.
Okay, I have like 1,000,000,000 more questions, but I don't think I get to keep you for that long. Number one, are we both paying for ourselves these days, or are we letting them pay? What are we doing about that? Number two, are we kissing
Our
on
face.
first dates? Are we kissing on third dates? Like, what are I just like expectations are so different than
Yep.
it seems
The
very
touching situation.
Okay. That's a
yes.
situation. Okay. I mean, it depends on what kind of relationship that you're looking for, the paying on first dates. I have never paid on a first or like really any date. In my relationship now, and we've been together for a little over a year, I will every once in a while be like, my treat, right? And it's like I plan that, like we kind of trade off a couple times a month with who plans date night and stuff. You can do like a cute, like, let's go mini golfing, like my treat, like to that sort of thing. Like men do appreciate when it does get balanced out like that. But maybe some women want to split things more and stuff like that, but no, the man should be paying for the dates.
I love it.
The
She's like,
man should be
no.
paying for the dates. What are we doing? What are we talking about?
I don't know. I feel like that's a thing now though, that it's not always clear cut. And it stresses me out to think about like having to be like, so what are we doing?
If you are asking the man out
Hmm.
and like the
Definitely
initiator,
I am for sure.
yes.
I laugh. No, I'm not.
Oh, okay. I was like, oh, Anita's like really throwing
He's
He's
76.
curveballs.
His name's Raphael, and he's
No, that was
76.
Javier and he's only 70.
She met him
Hey,
at a
you know what?
dance. That was
It-
that was Anita's closest step to anything dating, which was not.
Very funny. There
It
was a
was
man
more
in a
fun.
slim good bodysuit. Okay, keep going.
Yes, the men should be paying for the dates. If the
Okay.
man asks you out, he should be paying for the date always,
Okay.
100% of the time.
Okay.
If you ask the man out, then there might be a little bit more of a gray zone of you being like, if it was your idea, that sort of thing.
Okay, I got to get back to Javier and say that
Yeah.
to him.
Yeah, but no, the men should be paying for the dates. They should be paying for the dates.
Kissing, physical. What are people expecting these days as far as that goes on? You just need to communicate that because I'm not kissing anybody. I'm sorry. I don't want to.
Absolutely. If that's a boundary of yours, like on the date, like, and I don't think this is something you need to say before the date. By the way, before we go out on a date, I don't kiss on first dates. No, you don't need to say that before a date. But like on the date, you can say like, because I think like honesty is super important. You can say like, hey, I haven't dated in a while because XYZ. And so like this is like a big thing for me, and I'm not wanting to kiss on a first date. And you just say it like that, right? And how they respond to that is good feedback as well, because someone who thinks that's ridiculous, probably not a good fit, right? And but someone who's respectful of that and understands, like, that's a good sign. I think that kissing on a first date is totally fine. Like totally fine. Isn't necessarily the expectation automatically no matter what. Like I don't think as a woman, if you go on a first date that like you have to kiss him. No, not at all, right? And if you're not interested in another date, definitely don't kiss him.
No pity kisses. What about the flip side when you're going on a date because you're like, I need to be touched? How are we communicating that?
Well, is this more for just a little, so the physical side of things? I
Yeah, yeah.
mean,
That's definitely a widow issue. Like the widow's fire is a thing, and it's just like, I just want something casual and I want to be touched and I don't want any strings attached.
well, then that's something I think you can communicate. And I wouldn't necessarily like lead with that right out of the gate, but that's something like, okay, if there's like a vibe with somebody, like when you're on a phone call, or maybe it's on the first date, being like, hey, I just want to be clear that I am still not like ready for a serious relationship, but I'm wanting to date and I'm wanting some connection, but I'm not necessarily looking for a serious commitment. I mean, like men are usually kind of down for that, you know?
Wait, Anita, you could seek out a man who identifies as asexual. It might be
Uh,
perfect for you.
that's a whole nother, that's again, this just seems like too much work, all of it. I'll just go to the one dance that I went to, and then I'm going to go and I'm going to make my life be full and do the things that make me happy. And if there are people there that are in that sphere and are willing to have four bonus children who are sometimes the devil, then let's talk. And then I'll have to call Lauren when I'm like, I don't like them. Please help me to formulate a text because I can't hurt their
And
feelings.
here's the thing, like the breaking up or the ending something, maybe not breaking up, right? Because if it's like in the early stages, we don't call it a breakup, just ending something. Just think of it like a band-aid, like draft the text, like put it in there, and like if you have to look away and like hit send, just do that. And then like throw your phone somewhere, come back to it later.
Throw it
Like
in a
trust
pool.
me. Yeah, trust me that the like rip the band-aid approach is so much easier for you and more respectful of them and their time and energy than it is to like have the lingering energy for
Yeah.
like several days, right? Because then you're still going to be thinking about it. Oh gosh, I need to end things. Or what if he texts me? Oh, he just texted me. I need to like be polite and respond, but I'm actually not interested. Right? Like that whole thing is not, you don't need to be spending your time and energy doing that. So just rip the band-aid
I'll
off.
write it for you, Anita.
Okay, thanks,
I'm good
Mel.
at this because it's not me.
It's always easier when it's not you.
Yeah, I'll do
That's
it for
totally,
you.
totally true. Okay, so Lauren, if our listeners want to know more about what you do or how you can help them, how can they find you?
Check out my website, laurensalaun.com. My last name is Salaun. I've got my various courses on there. I have a really awesome texting guide. So helps teach you how to text from your feminine energy or communicate as well. So like it doesn't have to be just things to use via text. You can also like say the things that are in the guide. You can schedule a coaching call with me on my website. So website is a great place to check. And then I'm also active on Instagram and TikTok.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today and walking us through
Yes.
all of the muck and mire that is.
And we will link to all of Lauren's sites and things in the show notes.
All right, Lauren, thank you for joining us today. If you, our listeners, would like to keep the podcast going, will you check out our Patreon? It's patreon.com/WWDN.
If you'd like to buy us some tacos, go to buymeacoffee.com/widowwedonoww. And we also forgot to ask Lauren our famous question.
What are we doing here?
Well, I think you got a little bit thrown off by all the stress
did.
of like, yeah, I got you. Lauren,
Thanks.
what is your favorite cheese?
Oh, my favorite cheese. I'm really into the Gruyere cheese from Trader Joe's.
Okay, that's yummy.
Yeah.
Good answer. Good
It's
answer.
like a like thin, like kind of
Mm.
brick. Just slice it up. Yeah, it's so good.
Delicious.
So good.
Okay. Thank you, Mel. Thank you for bringing us back to where we needed to be. Okay. But now give us a nice rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And until we get to talk to you again, I'm Anita.
I'm Mel.
And I'm Lauren.
We're just two young widows and one expert on the dating in the 2026. And we're all just trying to figure out widow,
We
do.
now.
Mel, can you please tell me how you feel about therapy?
I am so grateful for therapy. I do therapy every single week.
Do you think it's a great tool in the widow's toolbox?
I sure do. I think it's a great tool in anybody's toolbox. And I am so glad that I have stuck with it because as time goes on, there are more things that I am able to learn about myself. That goes for anything from healing from the death of my husband to childhood things to trying to get outside and be social or trying to address my own certain personality. So yeah, it's really been helpful for me.
We have so many people in the Widow Wives Club who have started using BetterHelp and have amazing reviews. It takes away so many of the barriers to getting great therapy.
I know one of the things that's hard for people, and we get this question a lot, is I need a therapist that does XYZ. Who is a therapist that is going to be widow friendly? And I know that is so hard to find. When I did therapy that was not on this online platform, it was hard. And it's kind of trial and error, kind of like a new medication, honestly, like a new antidepressant. And the way that BetterHelp is set up is it's easy to find somebody that has your specific needs as part of their expertise. And you know what? If you get into a couple sessions with that person and it's not a good fit, it's so easy to change. You can ask some of our friends in the Widow Wives Club. They've changed therapists and gotten one that has been a better fit for them. Well, a lot of them are lucky with who they get first time. I am so grateful for mine. I love her so much, and it's literally changed my life for the better.
This is amazing. So if you guys are wanting to add therapy to your toolbox or need a change in who you're seeing right now, consider checking out BetterHelp. They're one of our sponsors. If you go to trybetterhelp.com/WWDN,
you get 10% off your first month of therapy if you sign up with BetterHelp. And let me tell you, the day that I was in the hospital with my dad when he was dying, I was able to instant message with my therapist, and she checked on me all throughout the week. And I was not available for video sessions for a lot of those times because there were things we were dealing with, like mortuary stuff, and I was still able to be in contact with her. So they're very, very responsive, caring. It's such a great platform, and I recommend it to anybody who is looking for therapy.
Once again, it's trybetterhelp.com/WWDN.
And that's for 10% off your first month of online therapy.
You don't even have to wear pants, Mel.
I know this.
First-hand experience.
You can even wear a onesie.
Or a twosie.
Ooh, scary. All right, bye!